Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 6:37, and this Housing and Real Property Subcommittee will come to order. All of you have received an email. The email that you received did, in fact, give you the list of bills that we were going to be discussing today. However, ladies and gentlemen, because the hour is a little bit late, we're going to reduce the number of bills that we're going to discuss today from 5 down to 2 because of the hour. Do not expect the same extension of courtesy in the future because we've got a significant amount of bills to go through. So today we're going to discuss 2 bills, as I indicated, which will be 783 and 705. Okay. So let us first start out by HB 783. And 783 is legislation sponsored by Delegate Holmes relevant to homeowners associations restrictions on long-term rentals prohibitions. You'll notice that the language in the bill is very short because it's very specific in terms of what it's attempting to get at. It is just language that doesn't prohibit long-term rentals in a common ownership community. Ben, if you could give us a brief discussion on the legislation, Ben, if there's something that you think should be added in a legal standpoint, I certainly would appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chair. It has no fiscal impact. At this time, my understanding is that the sponsor is favorable without amendments. There's a cross-file with Senator Waldstreicher. And what the bill does, we heard the testimony yesterday, is prohibit a recorded covenant or restriction, a provision in a declaration, or a provision in the bylaws of a homeowners association from restricting or prohibiting long-term rentals. And then, the bill defines long-term rental as the leasing by an owner of the property for a period of 6 months or more. And most of the testimony was favorable. There was some testimony, though, by CAI, Chair Holmes.
Thank you very much. As I'm looking at the testimony, the only unfavorable, as I recall, and I'm thumbing through here now, the only unfavorable was from CAI, as I recall, and that's what I recall. Yes. So what I would like to do, ladies and gentlemen, is get a motion so that we can have a discussion on the bill. I see Delegate Long, your hand is up.
So moved.
There's a motion favorable. Is there a second? Delegate Baker has his hand up. That's a motion and a second on HB 783. It is now, thank you for joining us, Delegate Lehman. It is now time for a discussion on HB 783. And I see Delegate Lehman's hand is up on HB 783.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I was trying to pull up the bill quickly to see if I could get the answer on my own, but I was not able to. On the definition of a short-term rental beginning with 6 months, what is that? Let
me stop you there, Delegate Lehman, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Because this bill has nothing at all to do with short-term rentals.
Oh, I thought I heard that.
This bill no, you take a look at the bill, the language in the bill is all about long-term rentals only. This is not something where we're going to be entertaining Airbnbs and those kinds of things.
That's great to hear. I guess I'm mixing this up with Delegate Stewart's bill that I sat in on in Ways and Means yesterday. I don't know it's been a long day, Mr. Chair. My apologies.
Well, it has been a long day. And
it has been very long. Thank you.
All right. So again, just to clarify for everyone, this bill is relevant to long-term rentals only. I see.
Gotcha.
Is that it, Delegate Lehman?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
good.
sir. Thank you.
Delegate Naraki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is, I have no issue with the 6 months. I'm just curious, just for my understanding, I like to learn when we do these things. Is long-term rental, is that start at 6 months? Is that codified somewhere in law? Just so I know why we picked 6 months. That's the only reason I'm asking that question.
It is not, as I recall. Ben, is it codified someplace other than this legislation here? Ben?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if it's codified somewhere else. I'm looking right now, but for what it's worth, we have the definition for this section of the code. So
There you
Sure.
go.
And I
I'm
have
not
no
seeing
issue
it.
with that, Mr. Chair. I'm just trying to understand these things. That's all, as we go.
Sure, sure. And again, we're just trying to make sure that it is long-term only. All right. All right. So we have a motion and a second on HB 783. Is there any additional discussion on HB 783? Seeing none, all in favor of HB 783 signify by saying aye.
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 Any objection to HB 783? Any abstentions on HB 783? Thank you very much. The HB 783 will receive a favorable report from the Housing and Real Property Subcommittee. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I indicated, because of the time of the evening, you were sent out a list of 5 bills. We're only doing 2 because of the hour. We'll now move to HB 705. HB 705 is a bill that the sponsor of the bill is Delegate Terrasa. This bill is Real Property Cooperative Housing Corporations, Condominiums, and Homeowners Associations virtual meetings. This is a bill that Delegate Terrasa had in 2023. That bill received a favorable report from the floor of 134-0 in 2023. This bill was also presented in 2022. This bill received a favorable report from the full floor of the House in 2022 of a vote of 131-2. Ben, if you could take a couple of minutes and tell us what the bill does while I'll clear my throat.
Okay, thank you,
Clear my
Mr.
throat.
Chair. Yep, the sponsor's favorable without amendments. There's no fiscal impact. The testimony yesterday was all favorable, including a letter of support from the AG's Consumer Protection Division. So what the bill does is in 2021, chapters 523 and 524 permitted the applicable governing body for a COC, like the board or the council of unit owners, to authorize meetings to be conducted electronically, like over the phone or video conference. Under this bill, for each type of common ownership community, so there's your condominiums, there's your cooperative housing corporations and condos. For each type, there's a relatively identical provision or language that amends the corresponding provisions for each of those COCs in the same type of way to provide a few things. If a COC holds any meeting through electronic means, the person conducting the meeting must allow all participants an opportunity to be heard by other members participating in the meeting and participate as if the meeting were conducted in person. If all participants are granted the ability to unmute themselves, there's some language about how the person conducting the meeting can mute participants while business is being conducted during presentations, or if there's interference. It provides some more language about revoking the ability for the participants to unmute if they're interfering or be removed from the meeting after a warning. And generally, under current law and unchanged by the bill, a meeting of the governing body of a common ownership community must be open and may be held in closed session only under limited circumstances that are specified in the current law. So.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that. Before we get into questions, perhaps I can get a motion before we go into discussion period on the legislation.
Move favorable.
There's a motion favorable. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Delegate Naraki. We are now into the discussion period. Delegate Long, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of my questions was already answered, but just for clarity, I'm trying to find it in my notes. What was the vote you mentioned previously?
Oh, previously, the vote on the full floor on 2023 was 134-0. The vote on this bill in 2022 was 131-2.
Great, thank you.
Any additional discussions on HB 705? Hearing none, all in favor of HB 705 signify by saying aye.
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 Is there any objection to HB 705? Are there any abstentions? And I might say that if there are any abstentions, you cannot abstain if you are on the video, just like you can't abstain if you are on the full floor of the House. The rules of the House floor says if you are on the floor, you have to vote. All right, same rules apply here. Now, that means that the HB 705 will receive a favorable recommendation from the Housing and Real Property Subcommittee. And ladies and gentlemen, as indicated, that's going to complete the work for HRP this evening. But as I indicated before, please do not become accustomed to such a brief meeting because we have a lot of bills to go through. But because of the hour, I just wanted to give us all a break. Have a good evening, and we'll talk soon.